everyone, and welcome to Birds of a Feather, the minicast dedicated to exploring how meaningful connections are the key to our success, where we talk about and hear stories and strategies firsthand from industry leaders. My name's Jeremy, and I'm co-founder of Feather. I'm super excited to introduce today's guest, Neil Barrow. Neil is the founder of Enabled BD, and Neil's got over 15 years of experience in sales and business development, and he's helping major accounting, financial, and consulting firms establish processes that fuel the growth. Neil, when you and I first met, I was really drawn in by your perspectives. You know, we talked about relationship development. You had mentioned to me that trust is earned over time. It's not, a single transaction that happens once. And you talked a lot about how like the pace of change is accelerating and how, while that's happening faster, we need to react to it. The fundamentals of like what it takes to be human and have real meaningful connections they're still the same as it's always been. I also love that you had emphasized depth over quantity. And Neil, you teach and enable the pro services industry. I'm super pumped to unpack a little bit more of this with you today. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Awesome. So I was thinking about, and as I was prepping for this, you built the company, your consulting firms on business development. And I thought maybe we could just start with a high level, your perspective. How do you actually define business development?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's what I spend all my time talking about. So a way to set me up for a easy one to start off is business development is really two things. It's deepening existing relationships, and it's growing new right relationships. That's a very simple definition of what business development is.
Yeah, I love that. Where do you see the line between business development and sales, given you wore both hats? I've got a perspective on that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think the line is a little bit blurred. We use business development in a lot of different ways, but in professional services, it's meant to really convey the sales side of the house. So we use this soft term because we don't want to be salespeople when we think about CPAs, attorneys, consultants, financial service folks. Like sales is a bad word. Architecture is engineering, the doer sellers. So we use business development as a soft term, but what's really meant to convey is relationship development. Is I have people that trust me as a professional with a particular skill set to solve their problems. And now that's how I develop those relationships. On the sales side, I view it as, hey, I'm a salesperson. I have a quota. I have a team. I have management. I came from sales. So having all of those support structures internally, and my goal is to go sell enough to hit a number. So that is the outcome. But business development, sales doesn't work that way in professional services typically. And so that's why we use the term business development, is because it's about the relationships that we have and that we want to develop.
Yeah, I love that. I think, my world, and I told you this the first time that we met, like I spent 15 years in enterprise software sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I always took a business development mindset to the table, which was how do I go and strengthen trust and build long-standing relationships? And, they come back over, it's like watering a seed, right? Like you put in the effort up front and you continue to put in the effort. But what I think is challenging, at least in the transactional, let's call it traditional sales world, is that when you have that quota over your head, everyone's running at activity that's aligned to closing deals in that moment for that quota. And to your point about, like you had mentioned, that it's about deepening, part of it at least is about deepening the right relationships. It's really hard to, when those relationships aren't transacting with you in the moment, justify how you explain to your sales manager that you're putting time into that relationship. Why are you taking them to the sporting game, right?
Yep.
But I think it's important, right? And I'd love to maybe hear, as we get into this a bit more, if we just talk about Enabled, setting the stage a bit for our listeners. by the way, totally agree with your perspectives on this. But what's your inspiration behind actually starting the company? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, having spent my career in sales and then in business development and professional services, people were always, other professional service providers were coming to me and asking, hey, how do we find a you? Or, hey, would you be interested in talking with us? And so there's this gap where I see people that would come over in business development to these firms and not really have expectations set. There wouldn't be a support structure for them to be successful. Then I see their people that are out there at networking events that are needing help in business development. And there's this kind of gap in the market that, for me in particular, that I was seeing was this ability to provide the structure internally for our people to be successful in business development, because our salespeople in professional services are the people that are doing delivery too. Mm-hmm. And so there's not really a line of delineation between sales and delivery. So the folks that are doing the work are needing to go get more work, and they are struggling typically with mindset challenges around how to do this. Well, I didn't become an architect or an engineer to then have to spend my time selling. I didn't become an accountant to then become a salesperson. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so there's this kind of clashing of mindset that needs to be addressed, that I was noticing among professionals. And that's really where I geared my firm, is it's helping firm leaders create the plan of support to enable their people to go generate new clients, to really help more people, to create more impact. And so when you think about business development traditionally, when people think about business development, they think about origination. Well, I'm going to hire Neil to go generate our firm a new client. But really, they need to be thinking about enablement, which is, I'm going to hire Neil to help our people go generate new opportunities, because that's about the dot connecting around relationships existing within firms. How are we managing our current clients? The number one, if you want to take a guess, you can, but what is the number one revenue source for professional service firms?
Referrals.
Referrals.
Yeah.
Great. Passed. Okay. Specifically, of the referral pie, which is the biggest slice? Who is referring?
Who's referring, you're saying?
Yeah. Of the referrals, where
today,
are they coming from?
Are you saying for today, or are you saying for people?
In professional services, just in general. Can you go 2 for 2? Who refers the most business to professional service firms?
I would have to say it's probably partners and ecosystem players.
Okay, great guess. That is a slice of the pie, but it's current clients.
Current clients. Yeah, okay, that makes
current
sense.
Clients. So when we think about where revenue is coming from for most firms, if they're coming from current clients, and we're not even intentional about nurturing those relationships, or even asking, we don't ask for referrals. Mm-hmm. What would happen to our growth goals if we just spent our time deepening our relationships? Mm-hmm. So that's the question I set out to answer. And over 3.5 years, we've found some really great results from doing that. But that's the foundation. We can build on that. There's partners, there's channel partners, there's the ecosystem, there's branding, there's prospecting. Hey, there is a place for cold calling and prospecting in professional services firm, but it's part of a balanced diet. So that's what me and my firm does.
Yeah, I love that. So are you then, are you sitting down with firm leaders and kind of getting an early stage assessment of, who's doing what, where are they on the maturity curve, so to speak? And maybe you can talk a little bit about, like, how do you actually create awareness? Because I know this is a two-part question. Like, what are you doing? But more so, you talk about enablement, which I spent quite a bit of time in enablement, and a lot of that comes down to crossing the chasm between compliance and belief. And there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created. You have to get people to recognize things. And in some cases, if I am an architect because I didn't want to be a sales guy, how do you get people to recognize that there's a problem? So curious to see, like, how do the engagements kick off? How do you bring these thoughts and get people bought in that way?
Yeah. So obviously this was a journey to get to the point where I'm at on my delivery right now for this, but ultimately it's, the right firms for me are tired of just trying stuff. They've sent their people to training, they've hired coaches, they've hired lead gen agencies, they've redone their website, they're doing all the things around growth, except they don't have a business development plan for their firm. And so that doesn't have to be overly complex. Like you said assessment. What I do, I actually have just one deliverable, and it's a BD sprint. And so I get in front of a leadership team with one of these things, and it's very structured: who, what, how. We go through all the process and components of a business development plan, and then we come up with a very practical next step for them to start enabling their people to have this. A lot of it relies around having information. So I need to know who your best clients are. We need to talk about why they're buying. We need to talk about what problems we're solving. And then we need to provide that information to our people so they can have better conversations and they can generate conversations that matter because they know the value that their firm brings and the relationships that are already within their ecosystem to continue to manage.
Yeah. How do you, well, are there clients of a certain size? I get the, they're tired of trying things and it feeling like it's not working, but are we talking about shops that are hundreds of people, thousands of people, one person? Like, where does that really start to become apparent to people?
Yeah. So typically, I've done this BD sprint for all size firms, from startup to 9-figure firms. But I would say that this is where we start to see the friction is really at that kind of smaller boutique firms. So call it between $10 to $50 million in revenue size firm. So that's, call it 40 to 200 people, 150, 200 people or so. And the reason why that becomes more friction is because now we have more people and we need them to do more. Then we need them to manage their books. We need them to generate new opportunities for the firm, because everybody can participate in business development, and specifically around your clients and your ecosystem that you've already created. The larger firms, once you start to get larger than that, they start sending their people to training, because we've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We typically have a marketing leader or a business development leader or a growth committee, and we've already got all these initiatives rolling out, and we have all this stuff sometimes. And so that becomes more of an advisory where we need to refine and tweak and maybe provide a little bit of a different direction for some of those firms, is how I work with those larger firms.
Got it. That's super cool. So now I think I understand. So keep me honest. So for the people that are coming up that are hitting this friction, you're laying the foundation for them, but also it's bespoke based off of what their customers want and helping them to go scale that across both process and execution. And then, once the firms get a little bit larger, you're helping them to sharpen the pencil and make it more effective. How do you measure when you engage with some of these clients, like current state versus future state, to create some accountability across people who are carrying out the process?
So what I've noticed from the consulting industry in general, being a consultant, is we like to overcomplicate things. And I'm a very practical person. So you used a lot of really great big words, like scale and optimize and process, right? And what I'm trying to get people to do is just call your clients. And so from a very particular viewpoint, this is a leadership challenge to solve. Is we have to give our people what those expectations actually look like, and then give our people the how and the support and the accountability to then go execute those conversations. And so we live in this world of AI tech tools, automation, workflows, like everything, like that's where everybody is looking towards. The eye is in that ballpark, but we've lost this, humanity of picking this thing up and making a call to somebody that will pick up and asking them how things are going. And that at a base level for a professional is the most powerful tool that you have. But we need to get back to that basic level on the foundational front. Then we can add all the fun stuff. We can add the structure and the processes, but we've got to exercise the muscle before, like, I need you to do a push-up before I ask you to do a burpee. Right? So let's exercise this muscle. Obviously, we have really high performing rainmaker folks at these firms, and what they need is the structure. They want to go out and generate new opportunities, and that's great. And so we can support them in a way that, you use the word scale, from client all the way to prospecting. Like we can meet people where they're at on their journey. But at a foundational level, it starts with managing our existing relationships.
Yeah, I'm very well aligned with your thoughts on this, and how you kind of you need both, right? You need to create new top of funnel, but top of funnel can come from a lot of different ways. And if you've got a leak in the bucket, like, you got to create a lot more top of funnel. And in these businesses, at least the ones that you're servicing and Feather, we're building Feather for, losing one client can set companies back in just a massive way. It's really, really tough. Curious to hear how you think about, managing long-term relationships and business development for your own practice, right? Like, what are some of the core tenets that you follow by?
Yeah, I think, early in my career, when you're in a business development role, when you're not the doer, you're not the professional in a firm, there's a non-zero chance that you are a walking waste of time, right? And so, like, the value of meeting with me, I had to really think about what I wanted to bring to the table. And so one of those areas that a lot of business development professionals really can guide into, or they take on, is to be the connector of people. And so being that kind of go-to resource and can solve multiple problems because of their network, that really is one of the ways that a business developer can separate themselves in a crowded market. And so to do that, you need to have an accountability to a certain level of activity to be able to meet enough people and then sort through those people to develop the right network for yourself. And so once I was able to build that activity metric and find the right people, from a standpoint of who are the people that I need to fill my network with? Well, the people that refer us are these types of people. The people that buy from us are these types of people. So where do they hang out? Adding the question every time I meet somebody that's great is saying, hey, who's your best networked person that you know, and getting connected to the next person. And that's how you kind of grow your network. But then once I set myself to a certain level of activity, and then I developed my network, it became more of how I operate rather than having a set structured list that I need to go down, right? So once a quarter, I will go through this thing and I will write down names of people that I haven't talked to in 6 months ish, right? And so that becomes my to-do list on to reconnect with some of those people by adding value. And what does that mean? That means either, hey, thought of you, like, what's going on? How are things going? Or it's, hey, I was thinking about us and what we were talking about last time. Could we connect? And like actually putting some thought into why I'm reaching out to them to reconnect. So I'm not a detail-oriented person. I am the strategy person, and that's what also makes me a fairly okay consultant to firms. But whenever I implemented a process like this and it became the rhythm, once I exercised that muscle, then it's just part of how I do it. And I think that gets lost in translation for some folks, because when they see a great business developer, they immediately will say, oh, that's just so natural for them. That's, they're just so good at this. And in reality, what they've done is they developed a list, held themselves accountable to it, and they did it for so long that it became natural.
Mm-hmm. So at Feather, we talk about the concept of social fitness or relationship fitness, which is you can liken that to physical fitness, but for your relationships.
Sure. Yeah.
And relationships and the health and the quality of relationships determine the quality and power and the scale and the ability to activate opportunity and all of that throughout our network. And it comes in the form of business and life opportunity, right? The thing though is that relationships decay fairly quickly. And, just because we're so inundated with noise and clutter and chaos and the 100,000 AI BDRs that are out there that are canvassing people's inboxes, and we're losing that like human touch. Your point, just, hey, pick up the phone and make a call. But it's hard enough to get a habit going of getting to the gym for physical fitness. It's easier to see it at times when, maybe the pants aren't fitting as well as they once were.
Yeah.
But I guess the question I have is, like, when you are talking to people about creating these habits, because it really needs to be a habit. You have to start to build out processes that support that habit. But how do you get the ball rolling? How are you advising people to break free of the stigma of, this is the sleazy networker kind of thing, and go beyond their comfort zone?
Yeah, well, we start in the comfort zone, which is with their clients, with people they already know. And, we do this exercise every time I'm with a client, and we talk about tracking referral sources. So, hey, of our best clients, where did they come from? And a lot of firms don't have that information. It's in their head. It's in an inbox somewhere. It's not written down. It's not tracked at all. And so what we find is that people that have referred us a great client, we might not have talked to that person 18 months, 2 years. It might have been that long. And so when we can see it in front of us, you're talking about the pants, not fitting exactly right anymore. When we see that and it becomes, wow, well, there's no reason why I shouldn't have caught up with this person, right? Here's one of our best clients, and we know that they're getting a new CFO, C-suite, ownership. We know something's happening, but we haven't reached out to try to figure that out and get ahead of it. Like, we're just delaying it. And what we've got to do is we've got to see it first, and then we've got to understand there's that, again, going back to the mindset, there's the friction there. Because what we think I'm asking you to do by calling your clients is to go pitch them something. And that's not what this is. It's going to talk to your clients to see how, what priorities are coming up, what opportunities, what challenges are they facing, how can you be more helpful to them? And it doesn't mean buying something from you. Mm-hmm. And so you're doing them a disservice by not asking those questions. And at the true core of people who have a particular skill set, like accountants, attorneys, financial services, architects, engineers, consultants, is they want to be an advisor to their clients. They want their clients to come to them when they have an issue or a problem. But we don't do a great job as firms to help our people be that true advisor to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the reason for that is because I can't imagine it's that people don't know it's important. Do you think it's more a matter of they don't know? And like we talk about like unconsciously incompetent, consciously, incompetent, consciously competent, unconsciously competent. Like, what's the real reason that this is a problem? You can go build because it kind of seems like, I pick up the phone and add value to people and add more to the people that are important to you than you're taking out of those relationships. Sure. Kind of a basic concept, but what's the real reason this is a problem?
So I think there's a lot of reasons why. I think whenever you're early in your career, you're taught to learn how to perfect the deliverable. So you spend the majority of your early career working on being really competent at your job on the delivery side. Then when you hit a certain level, you're told, hey, you need to go bring in new clients. And you're like, wait, hold on. I spent the majority of my career doing the deliverable. I just want to do the deliverable, right? I think the other piece is capacity, is that a lot of these professionals, it requires their time to do the delivery. So it becomes the lowest priority for me because I'm trying to keep my head above water, delivering good work for our clients. So I think those two, that also leads to the how and the support. Traditionally are how, like how do you do this? Coaching from leaders, because when you look at these firms, the leaders are typically the rainmakers. The ones that bring in business, the ones that have the largest books, the ones that continue to move up because they bring in work, because they're growth oriented for the firm. So those people get promoted. And so these folks are looking down, just like what you said, and said, why aren't you calling your clients? Why aren't you go out, network, go take people to lunch, pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. They're saying all these things without the how to, because those folks haven't really done it and exercised the muscle. They can go hide under the delivery and the capacity umbrella, which isn't, again, a bad thing, because that's required. We have to do good work that's the baseline for business development, is do good work for people over a long period of time, and more business should come. But those are the elements that I see that are getting in the way of that.
For what it's worth, enabled BD is a perfect name for what you do. I love it. I mean, I'm just thinking about it because it is, like exactly that. And I was checking out some of the content that you share and talking about creating awareness, right? You ran a poll recently asking a lot of professional services folks on the market, how much cold outbound, meaning emails and calls, are you actually making? Mm-hmm. And that over 80% of them do 50 or less than 50 a week. And what was really staggering to me is that 30% of people don't do anything.
Zero.
Right? So if 1 in 3 people are actually not doing anything like that, that's a huge opportunity.
And that poll, those are business development professionals. Those are not your CPAs and attorneys and people that are doing delivery. So these are the quote unquote salespeople at these firms.
Right.
That's so if they're doing zero, how much are our people doing? Our professionals.
Yeah, it's funny. I forget the exact stat, but I think there's a metric in law and legal industry where like 70% or more of your time needs to be in billing, right? Like you have to be on the delivery side. Yep. And so that leaves you with all the administrative, everything else and all to squeeze in. And so One of our design partners who, was talking about, I fly around to a lot of different cities. I meet clients, I fly around the cities, I meet clients, and I find myself in cities seeing the same person over and over again, or drinking at the bar by myself in the airport. And so it's like, even just coming up from the chaos and the noise enough to know who is the right person at the right time. It's a hard thing to do if you're not actively putting in effort. So what?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, there's no replacement for reps. Like I can't train you and talk to you and tell you what to do. And then it becomes like, oh, wow, this is exactly what I needed, because because you got to go get the rep in. Like I was talking to a firm leader, managing partner, and he was telling me the story of, hey, we've got these football tickets locally. And we're telling our people like, hey, invite a client. Like we've got these tickets, like who wants them? Who wants to take clients out, right? And what he did, like got crickets, right? Because everybody's busy. It's September the 16th. The September 15th deadline was yesterday, right? So what he did was he looked at who was playing, right? The home team, did a LinkedIn search of people that were alumni of the visiting team school, and then found people in his network that were those alumni, and then spent 10 minutes messaging them saying, hey, would you like to go to a football game? And he was able to get a prospective client to go out there with him. So what we think is a natural on the BD front, like, oh yeah, well, duh, that's exactly what I would have done. Our people have not exercised that brain muscle. And so I've got to get you to go in and even do a rep, like outreach to people, to then have the thought, you know what, I should see who's the alumni first, right? Because that won't even cross some of our folks' mind. So we really need to be very intentional about getting them the reps that they need.
Yeah, I think there's, going back to, so every time that I talk pipeline generation, PG, in the software sales, side of the house, we call it PG, right? Pipeline generation. So I always talk about it being a quantity, quality, and consistency kind of blend, right? If you do a lot of shitty outbound, you're not going to get people who are, you're negotiating for somebody's, mental capacity, even just to respond to you in that note, right? So you have to have some quality over there. And that's the metric that I think it's really hard to scale, the handwritten note. And I was talking to a former colleague of mine. She writes 300 birthday cards by hand every single year and sends them out a month in advance. So she makes sure that everything gets there on time. But that's a really hard thing to scale. So there's kind of this like trade-off between high quality and high quantity. And I really think that technology can help to scale that, but we can't take the person out of it. But I think, as I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about, like, you have these different scenarios with your clients at different stages, right? They're bought in from a leadership problem down. But then you have the people that you mentioned have the main focus of their job is delivery, execution of the service. They're service professionals, right? So how do you, because I get the training a business development professional, but for companies that can't yet put business development in place, right? They're not going to go hire a bunch of BD executives, and that's just not where they're at. How do you actually get people to find and strike a balance between, I got to go build, or I got to bill, and I got to be in the field with, I got to go through my alma mater to go, see who wants to play the game.
Yeah, the balance is seasonal, right? Depending on your level, capacity for the firm, the work that you do. There's deadlines associated with a lot of projects. And so it's going to change over time. It's going to fluctuate. And so just having a plan to know when I'm at capacity and I'm talking and I'm working on delivery for clients and I'm working with clients, what can I integrate into those conversations with clients that would lead me to discovering how to add value or help them or keep stuff on their radar. For example, again, when I'm talking with a client about a delivery, I'm on site, I'm asking questions, I'm being curious, I'm listening, I'm hearing, hey, yeah, we're about to lose our controller. You know, hey, we're looking at this acquisition, we're looking at buying this land. Like now I'm asking more questions. Like, what help do you need with that? Like, so then I can ask when I'm in delivery mode. When I've got capacity, then it's more of the research side. It's more of the catching up with your referral relationships. It's right. It's building your network, but it's managing your network as your capacity is constrained. And so I can't do that as a professional if I don't have a plan. I don't have a very tight list of my clients and my referral sources that I need to manage. And I don't think it's reasonable or it's really effective to be an inch deep with 5,000 people. I think it's how do you manage this core group and then continue to add and as people leave your group, as people come in, it's managing this small group of folks over time.
Yeah. You probably have heard of Dunbar's number, kind of the sweet spot, right? So for anyone else who hasn't heard, Robin Dunbar is a British anthropologist from Oxford who came up with Dunbar's number, which talks about these circles of relationships that we have, starting with like 5 to 15 to 50 to 150 to 500, 1500. And he talks about Dunbar's number, which is 150 is kind of the cognitive capacity or sweet spot and maximum capacity, so to speak, of meaningful relationships. Mm-hmm. But that, to your point, that number is changing, not because the number is getting different, but because the people that are in that sphere are changing. And so when I agree with you. I think 5,000, you can't be authentically you, which makes the biggest difference in it. Do you have an idea in terms of like somebody, let's say like somebody who just wants to get started with business development, like what's a good goal for them to keep in mind?
Go through this and just start, writing them down, putting them in Excel, whatever you need to do, download it. But once you start highlighting those people that align with where you need to develop your relationships, then that number is going to be pretty small. Like I have a very wide network of folks, and I just started a newsletter a couple of months ago, and it's a monthly newsletter. And I was thinking about who do I want to invite to this that I know really well, that I would want to see it, and that they would like to see it. And so, I have a lot of connections. And so I went through them, and that number was about Dunbar's number. Mm-hmm. It wasn't much more than that, right? When I thought about it. And so if I'm going to be at Dunbar's number to try to think about who would enjoy this newsletter that I wanted to invite to join me, most people, it's going to be like 20, 50, 75 folks, right? That they would start with. Whenever I'm consulting with a firm, it's Pareto's principle. We start with 20%, because 20% of your book generates 80% of your revenue. Mm-hmm. 20% of your referral sources generate 80% of your referrals. So it's just shrinking that down. And I haven't met a professional that when we focus on their clients, it's more than 25.
Yeah. And if you've got more than 25, you're selling a service that's not a high ticket item, because it takes a lot of trust. And you can't go build trust at mass scale, just as a person. Yep. That's really good. I like it. So curious to get your thoughts on this, right? Like we're talking a lot about foundational stuff. We're talking about putting, get up and look through your book, write it down, right? Yep. Where is your thought wherein technology starts to come into the mix, right? Obviously, we're trying to build a platform that aligns to solve for some of these accountability, makes it easier, takes some of the cognitive load away, so that takes the risk and the fear of being rejected out of the mix because you have a reason to reach out to people. So I'm a believer that technology comes with the insight, but it stops at the human. And I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on, where do you see technology fitting into this picture here?
Yeah, I think that it's more about it's really what a CRM is meant to do, but maybe for a person that's not in sales, right? So there's people that I want to make sure that are on my radar that takes me thinking about them or coming across with them or seeing something, right, to be reminded of them. And I think there is a place for technology to help us be kicked, right, for people to make sure that we are managing those relationships correctly. I think there is also making sure that we are taking from our conversations that we can pull out the relevant information from the last time we had talked. And so again, this is CRM type stuff, but if it comes in the form of a reminder with what we talked about, I think that's where we're going to see, AI tech, what y'all are building. Like, there's going to be things there that are going to be super helpful for us to manage relationships better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've been noticing and thinking about in terms of, how are we building Feather and how it's our go-to-market, like there needs to be an enabled BD on the front end of it. Tech doesn't solve all the problems. It's not like build it and they will come, because there is a consciousness, there's an awareness, there's a habit formation, there's a accountability, there's a leadership down approach. I think what you're doing is spectacular. One of the things that I really enjoy hearing about when I get a chance to talk to people that are kind of leading in their own industries are stories. And I would love it if you might be able to share with us like a story about one relationship you felt you've been really purposeful with, right? How'd you do it? Who was it? What were the lessons? Like, what's one that you feel really made an impact on you?
Yeah. Well, I've got lots of folks that I've been fortunate to have enter my orbit that have been made a big impact on me. I think that I'll turn it around because I think that there's one person in particular who has been a great mentor for me over time, and it's Frank Einelli. And he's been in accounting for a long time, been in industry, private equity, CFO, CEO, and then he started his own fractional CFO consulting firm. But he's always been a go-giver. If you've read that book, and he's always been intentional about being encouraging and wanting to provide impact for people. His purpose is providing impact. Like, he wants to see his efforts of connecting folks, of being thoughtful, of thinking about people, calling them. I learned one of the best business development tactics, if you will, and it's not really one, it's just common sense. But learned from him, which is when you think about somebody, message them, call them, email them, text them right now. Because what we all go through in our brain is we think about somebody and it's like, oh yeah, I need to catch up with them. Oh yeah, I should reach out to them, and then we don't. And so having that in your tool belt, just doing it, kind of going along the lines of, I forget who said it, but if it takes less than a minute and you thought about it, just do it right then. Mm-hmm. If it takes more than that, then you might need to think about where your time is. But if it takes less than a minute, do it right then.
Yeah.
And so he's been super impactful to me in my career, encouraging me to go, to explore business development consulting, encouraging me when I was in business development roles on new way to do things and to strategize about things. And so it's been a really impactful relationship that we've had over time.
That's awesome. I hear a lot about mentor-mentee type relationships because it really changes our lives in many ways. Curious, double clicking on that, like how do you become a go-giver into that relationship as well, right? Like,
Sure.
what do you do to go and nurture it with Frank?
Yeah. So I think being a good mentee is showing that you're listening and doing the work. So he can give you the mentors can give you all the advice in the world, but if you're not going back to them and showing them that you're acting on their advice, that's how you can give it back. And obviously over time, as I've matured in my network and how I go about things, I'm able to provide value to him, make valuable connections, be able to be more of a colleague to him and brainstorming some of the things that he's working on. And so it just kind of comes back around. And, that's helped me be a good mentor for BD pros and has helped me with inherently with my work. There is coaching, there is part therapy. There's a lot of things that come along with being a business development professional. And that's helped me be a better mentor as well.
Love it. I can think of a lot of people in my sphere too that have played that role for different fashions and different needs at different times. And your point about listen and then act on it and then pay it forward, I think it's a really important piece of this. And as we wrap up here, you've dropped like some sick nuggets. I love it. Every aspect of what you've been saying has been so spot on. But if we just bubble this back up to like one key takeaway for anyone who's listening, you're coaching somebody up who wants to get better, what's one actionable thing that you would recommend them to go do?
I'll continue to beat the drum. Go through your contact list, whether that's your phone or your email. Take out if it's a maybe, just get them out of there. Just go through, write down, get that list down to a manageable size, 20, 30, 50 folks. And then what are you going to do for them this quarter? Are you going to send them a message and say, hey, thought of you. It's been a while. What's going on? Let's catch up. Are you going to send them an ask? Do you need, could they help you? Could you help them? So what are you going to do with each of those people? And if you're looking to get started, that is the easiest way to do it because there's people in your life who like you, trust you, want to help you, and you want to help them, and you like them, and you trust them. But somebody's got to take the first action to make sure that relationship is secure.
Awesome. This has been a treasure trove of great insights, and you gotta just take the small steps. Neil, for everyone who's listening, if anyone's looking to connect with you or learn more about Enabled BD, what's the best way to do that?
Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I post business development content. I also have a newsletter. All the links and everything are really through my LinkedIn. I'm also at enabledbd.com.
Amazing. This has been great, and I appreciate you being a part of it. Getting the stories about Frank and the insights on how you act on it, and just the industry perspective on where the challenges are, why people actually need to go do a little bit more in the form of nurturing the key relationships is so impactful for our professional lives, and as a knock-on, living better quality personal lives. And it's really aligned to what we're doing. So, for everyone out there who's listening to us, if this conversation resonated with you, of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts, drop some comments, connect with Neil. If you're interested in seeing what we're doing and how technology intersects with some of this, take a look at Feather. We're at www.feather.vip. And of course, we'd love to have you back for the next minicast. My name's Jeremy. This has been Birds of a Feather. Thanks so much for joining us.